Hi, welcome back. So today we're going to be looking at the suits of the swords. And I've left the court cards out for this one. I'm going to do court cards separately for each suit. But for the moment, this is just all the swords from the ace to the 10. And I'm just going to run through some of the most obvious, but also some of the symbols that aren't as obvious in some. Okay, so in no particular order. Okay, I've got them all here, but so the swords are, um, in the most basic context, are the mind. So the swords represent the mind, um, how we think, how we process our thoughts, and for each card, it's that thought process. So they're all not going to quite fit here. Um, so really, where to start? All right. Well, in the Eight of Swords, just down here, we looked at the nine. We looked at the suit of the nines the other day, and the Eight of Swords is she's feeling trapped within herself, but nothing's holding her back. Nothing. No one is sort of restraining her. The bandages are not very tight. You can tell they're sort of loosely holding there. If she just moved her arms, she could sort of pull those bandages away and she'd be free. So the difficulty with the eight is that not being able to see the emotional conflict that you're facing within yourself. So it's like the difficulty may not be as bad as you think if you just kind of removed the blindfold and looked at the situation with a little bit more clarity. Okay. So again, with the Nine of Swords, which we covered the other day, so it's more about those nighttime fears, the anxiety, the what if scenario, the middle of the night trauma of anxious, nightmarish thoughts. Like it's really overwhelming. But again, no one's hurting this person. In fact, all the swords here, except for the six and the five, is that they're on their own, except for the three, which is the heart. So the Nine of Swords is that mental anguish. So again, it's about how we process information. The Four of Swords is taking that space, that mental space. I remember reading a combination where it spoke about before knights went into battle, they would rest and retreat like this. I even read it said like they would lie in a coffin like bed. So I'm not sure how true that was, but it's a reflection of the knight taking some time to rest and retreat, um, and to take that mental space, right? And before he goes into battle, before he goes into dealing with the challenges of others, which can lead into the five, which you've got here. In the Five of Swords, for me, it's about knowing your limitations mentally, know what you can deal with and what you can't. Don't try and fight, bigger opponents, bigger issues than you can take on. So you can see in the card he's got two swords. Actually, he's got three in his hand and two are on the ground. So there's a part of him that's aware of what he can deal with. You can also see that those swords on the ground could be belonging to the other guys that have turned away. So maybe he can only deal with so much, but it's like he knows his limitations, the guy with the five. He knows what he can mentally take on. The five is also about arguments and disagreements, but he looks a little bit satisfied with himself. So again, this is sort of at a cost that he will take on this conflict with others. So you want to kind of be careful again how this shows up and what other cards are around it. The Six of Swords is, if you look really closely at the bottom right corner, you've got all the wavy water, which is turbulent. And as they move ahead, you can see the water's more calm. So it's moving out of that emotional conflict into more stable, calm, emotional waters to the other side. They're traveling to the other side of where they're going. So every tarot deck is going to be different with the six and how it shows up. It also shows up with other people. So here it's indicating that maybe there's a little bit more stability and moving out of drama with other people, moving out of conflict with others, and moving more towards a harmonious space. This card is also about moving on. So mentally moving on from the issue or the problem, or it's saying that this person, or depending on the other cards around you, the other person wants things to just move on, or someone could be moving away. So again, there's a certain sense of stability. Actually, I do like seeing this card in readings. It's actually a really good omen. It's a good message saying there's improvement, unless there's a struggle unless there's a struggle for the situation where someone's trying to achieve this peace and stability, and maybe they're finding it hard. The Seven of Swords is another one that can be tricky for some. For me, I often interpret it more as in context. It can be about deceit. My upshot is often discernment. Sometimes we need to be a little discerning on what we say and how we say it. And so, not every lie is a betrayal, in my opinion. So the Seven of Swords can be about, deceit. If it's next to the moon, yes, emotionally betrayed, emotional deceit. But in other scenarios, it could be that the person's trying to find a way to move on. Next to the world, it might be they're trying to find a way to move on without maybe being upfront about it. Maybe they just want to sneak off and sneak away. That may not be ideal to you, but it doesn't make their intentions any worse. So my take on the Seven of Swords, we can see he's running away from the tents behind him. He's kind of sneaking off. Of course, that's not great. But he's still got two that he's going to have to go back for. So he hasn't quite finished his what's the word I'm looking for? Like his action or his decision. But for me, sometimes, depending on what you've asked, it can be suggesting to tread carefully on what you say and how much you reveal. Being upfront is not always necessarily the best way forward. But that's me. I have a little bit of a different take on this stuff. The Two of Swords is that she's got her swords crossed. She's got her arms crossed against her chest where her heart is. So she is not choosing. I was going to say she's not ready. She's not ready, and she is not choosing to make a decision. She's using her mind. She's not using her emotions. She's turned her back on the water, and the moon's behind her. She can't see it. So she is almost at a stalemate. It's like nothing can be decided right now. And for me, it's not the best card to see because it means the person isn't ready to make a decision, and they're still not ready to look at the situation. So again, depending on context, you want to consider the question that you've asked and how it shows up. But for me, it's a bit of a stalemate card. So again, mentally, they're in two minds about what they want to do, but they're not bringing their heart into it. They're not bringing their emotions into it. They're just closed that off, and they're using just their mind. Okay, and the Three of Swords. All right, so this has the heart. If you think about a betrayal, it does create the heartache, but it's the mental anguish that comes with that betrayal. So the Three of Swords is about that heartache, literally piercing the heart. It's really quite graphic. It's a card that when the person's dealing with a lot of heartache, a lot of pain, however, it can also represent healing. So surrounded by other cards, it can be a good card to see that there's been healing, moved on from that pain. But again, the pain comes from the mind. It's only how we think and process the situation. I'm not saying heartache is enjoyable, but it's how the perception is considered. And as I'm saying this, I'm looking at the Ten of Swords in the background. See, it's when we torture ourselves. It's when we just are giving ourselves such a hard time. And in the 10, it is the end of the cycle. He's like tortured himself so much that it's the end, right? And this is the gift of the 10. It is the end of the mental torture, the mental drama. Enough is enough. it's just finished now. And the gift is it's now going to be clarity moving forward in a new way, in a new mind, in a new attitude, in that kind of sense moving forward. So the 10 is really more about like overkill, drama. Next to the Queen of Cups, it can be drama queen, or next to the King of Cups, it can be someone who's a drama. So again, it can be very dramatic depending on what you've asked and what it's next to. Um, it can only get better from here, but we need to get to that point of going, just enough already. It's just, this thing is, killing me, right? So the positive is there's a renewal from this ending. And the Ace of Swords is that clarity, clear minded, be focused, be single minded. Don't let too much doubt and confusion hold you back. You want that ace, you want that energy, you want that single minded clarity. And that's what the Ace of Swords brings. I'm going to be really brief and finish it here. I have a feeling my SD card's going to run out. So, look, this is just a really brief snapshot of the swords. Do your own research, look at the cards in a different way, and see how they compare in combination with other cards and kind of feel what it's saying rather than everything being negative or positive. That's my kind of take on the swords. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful day.